Well, we have Juan in Mexico is a recent atheist. Pronouns are he, him. Um, Wants some advice about, I don't know, fear of related to promises you made while you were a believer. What's going on, Juan?
Hi, thanks, Matt. Thanks for taking my call. Really appreciate
Mhm.
it. Um, so, first off, I just want to commend you for your patience. As entertaining as this stuff is, definitely requires a ton of patience. Anyway,
Thanks.
so basically, like when I was a believer, um, I was a believer for maybe about like 2 years, and I really just got into it to help me with like some mental illnesses that I had. And it did help. I will say that it did give me some sense of peace. But through that process, I started becoming like really devout, and I started, calling people like blasphemers and stuff like that. Just the whole shebang.
Mhm.
And through that process, I remember like I made promises that I was gonna like give up women and things like that. You know what I mean? Um,
Mhm.
and now, and keep in mind, like I would say like I officially converted to atheism, if you can say that, uh, 2 weeks ago. So I'm like right off the boat.
Mhm.
Um, and I just have this like I don't believe in that stuff, but I still have this like lingering fear in the background that like somehow like God is gonna. I have a fear that he's gonna like how do I say this? It's gonna come back to haunt me in some way. You know what I mean? Um, as if like there's like force existed that was gonna like make me fulfill my promises or something like that, and it's just so annoying. And I just wanted to know if you had any advice for
Okay, I
someone.
want to make sure. I want to make sure I understand this, and then we'll see what Jim and I think about it. Once upon a time, when you were a believer, you made a bunch of promises to God about what you would do, and now you don't believe in God, but you're still worried about having to answer to a God about promises you made.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's something that like I can't control. It's not something that I'm like. It's just like fear in the background is the best way I can describe it. And I've
Well,
just been like watching your show. Oh, sorry.
yeah, I think just constantly reminding yourself, oh yeah, there is no God, so it doesn't matter anymore. I mean, you spent some time building up this belief system. You got really, really devout. You did a lot of things to reinforce that belief system, and now you got to go undo all that quote damage that you did to yourself in enforcing these beliefs. And it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be pleasant, but it's, you just keep going, oh yeah, I don't believe that there's a God anymore, and therefore he's not going to do anything to me if I don't keep that promise. And just keep reminding yourself of that, because when you spend time being devout, when you spend time going to mass, and you spend time praying, and you spend all the time reinforcing these things, there's a lot of habits you do that go into reinforcing your beliefs. And when you become an atheist, you kind of drop all those habits cold turkey. And if you don't go in and fix that, then those habits will try and linger on, whether you want them to or not.
Yeah.
So I would say just you're going to have to go through it and kind of deprogram yourself, so to speak.
One of the things is that some
Yeah.
of this stuff takes time, but I have a couple of questions that might make this easier. Let's say that
Okay.
you find out at some point that the God that you made promises to is real. Do you think you can fool that God?
No, no, no,
Okay.
not. I don't think so.
Did you honestly try to find that God?
I did, and
Okay.
like I had some like what what people would
That's all right.
describe on here as like these like hello, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. Did that God ever respond to you when you asked it for evidence and information or compassion or anything?
So this was like the really like thing that kind of like settled my, how people talk about like their experiences with God and stuff like that. And so like I was convinced that I had some experiences with God, which is what really solidified my like belief. And I'll give you one like short one. I remember like when I had recently like converted back to Christianity, because I was raised Catholic, and then I became an atheist when I was in like 7th grade, and then I went back to it. So this is my first merry-go-round. But basically, I remember I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I should like pray for something I want. You know, I hear this prayer stuff works. You know, so I prayed, and I remember I specifically asked. I used to be really into rap music, like really, really into rap music, and so like I asked God for a gold chain. Like, I'm not even kidding. I was just like, yo, dude, like, I didn't know anything about like being humble and, you know, how God quote unquote wants us to be or whatever. So I was just like, oh, I can pray for anything. You know what I mean? I'll pray for it, you know? And literally within a week, within 1 week, I remember I woke up one morning, and this is when I was still living with my mom. I woke up one morning, and my mom was like, look what I found. When you were baptized, your aunt or your godmother, she gave you this little gold necklace. Like, this is when I was a baby, and it's just been sitting in the closet for, at that point, 19 years, and we had moved from different locations, you know, throughout my life. So like she had, like, it's not like she just threw it in there and then forgot about it. Like it had been moved. Like she had come across it like multiple times. And I never knew about it or anything. And she gave it to me. And that, I was like, yo, that's crazy. And then that's kind of like, what, like, you know,
a
there's no way
completely random
to prove
coincidence.
that was God.
Right.
That's just a coincidence. Yeah, that's my take on it.
So here's the thing.
But that was what got me.
If that was actually a reasonable bit of evidence that God, so like you prayed for something, and if God was willing to give you what you prayed for, and that as a way of showing that he's there. So you're basically saying, God, if you're there, I want some evidence. Give me a gold chain. And you get a gold chain. Now, if God is really there and is answering your prayer and gives you the evidence that you asked for, then why won't he fucking do it for anybody else? And why won't he do it for you now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right.
It's like the Babel fish, and
yes.
It's almost that silly of, you know, if this is clearly good evidence for God, well, then he should be able to give that evidence to anybody and everybody all the time. Otherwise, he's playing favorites. And meanwhile, why doesn't he just show up and explain all this stuff? So if you sought out a God and you thought you had good reasons and you found out those reasons were bad, and you reached out to God to, hey, I think these are bad reasons. I think I might have been confused. Is there some way I can be more confident? And you don't get any answer. Then isn't it God's fault you're an atheist?
Yeah, honestly, like I'd say so myself.
Then that's what I'd tell him when he starts asking why you didn't give up women.
Thank you for that. Also, I actually had this one other topic I thought of while I was waiting. If I could just really quickly, I don't know if it's appropriate for the show. You can just tell me if it's not. But first, I have a question. Are you a vegetarian or a vegan or anything like that?
Nope. I am frequently mostly vegetarian, but I'm not vegetarian or vegan explicitly.
Like every now and then. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much me. And so a lot of my so when I was vegan for a while, and this is when I was a non-believer, due to the idea that like, oh, well, we're all just animals. So like, why play this like speciesist kind of game? You know what I mean? So, you know, and you know, religious people say like, oh, God gave them animals so that they could eat or whatever, and to them that justifies it. But as an atheist, what is your justification for like killing certain animals, not others? You know what I mean?
I don't know that I need any justification. I've already said many times that veganism may be a moral virtue, but I don't consider it a moral duty, and nobody's advocated strongly enough for it being a moral responsibility.
Okay, so it is kind of, I think the word is speciesist. Like I'm not.
Well,
like,
I'm absolutely speciesist and unapologetic about it.
Okay, So as long as, okay, so that's just, I was like, maybe there's something that I'm missing, you know what I mean, that Matt knows.
You may be, I don't know. Vegans don't really like me all that much when it comes to the arguments about how and why, despite the fact that I've dated a number of vegans and been mostly vegan for quite a bit. And I'm willing to say that veganism is a moral virtue. I'm just not convinced it's a moral duty. And so they got some work to do. But when you say, what's your justification for killing in eating animals? It's kind of, in my view, it's shifting the burden of proof. You know, it's not that I need a justification to do that so much as it needs to be shown that it would be immoral to do it. But
well, I mean, they're living sentient beings with like nerves.
So what?
Pain.
So what?
Like,
so what?
I mean, like if you wouldn't like suffering to be done to you.
I'm also not going to let sharks drive cars either.
What does that have to do with anything?
So there's a big long discussion here, but you have a moral responsibility. You're in a moral contract with other thinking agents. And my morality is not based on simple suffering. And the mere fact that something could feel pain doesn't necessarily put it into a particular moral category or a moral category of equity. You know, I don't go out. I'm not keen on squashing a grasshopper, but I'm not upset. You know, I'm not going to cry when one of them gets demolished by the car as I'm driving down the highway. And there is no solution that's not going to involve in the death of something. But if you're just like, oh, well, they can feel pain. Yeah, they can. So what? You have to make an actual moral argument for why it is immoral to cause something else pain, or to kill it. You have to make that particular argument.
So you don't think we have a, like, assuming we're all just, well, I mean, I guess we already admitted the whole speciesist thing. So like we do kind of have a moral obligation to, let's say, like, you know, try to end world hunger, I guess, or, you know, like try to, you know, like help people and stuff like that are in need. But when it comes to other species, that's just not the case. Is that what you're saying?
I don't have a moral contract with the rat in my backyard that I have with you. I don't have the same moral duties to that creature that I have to you.
Do you have any moral duties to them?
I'm not sure.
And I guess this would all be like subjective, you know what I mean? It's all kind of based on what you believe.
It's based on what one's moral foundation is, yes. But we got to move on.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thank you.